Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Finance Committee Council as a whole meeting for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacey, you can please call the roll.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky,
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, First District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon is absent. Councilwoman Elizabeth Johnston,
Councilwoman Liz Johnston, Third District, present.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano is absent. Councilwoman Robin Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, Fifth District, present.
Councilman Peter Massaro is absent. Councilwoman Trinae McGee,
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli,
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno,
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen,
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Ronald Quagliani.
Council at Large, Ron Quagliani, and I'm present.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you, Stacey. If you could read the call of the meeting into the record, please.
The West Haven City Council Finance Committee Council as a whole will conduct budget meetings on Mayor Nancy R. Rossi's recommended budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 as listed below. Meetings will take place remotely via web conferencing. Departments will receive email instructions on logging into the meetings.
And tonight is 6 p.m. Planning and Development, 6:30 Building Department, 7 o'clock Park and Recreation, and 7:30 Corporation Council. This time we'll turn the meeting over to the Finance Chair, Councilwoman Hosky.
Hi, thank you, Chairman. Who is giving the, Mayor Rossi, are you doing the planning and development, or is Lee?
I believe Lee Tiernan's on the call and he
Is he? Oh, is he the 214?
Yeah, and also I know Frank Gladwin's on the call for the building department.
Right, okay. Hi, Lee, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was you.
Madam Chair,
How are you?
I'm getting by.
Well, thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it. Did you want to go over anything, or did you want us to just start asking you questions? It's completely up to you.
Well, let me just, overstate the obvious because, you have a budget document, but I just wanted to go over a couple things. So if you notice, the direction going here at the mayor's direction is going from 3 assistant building officials to 5 and reducing out the blight officers. And the reason for that is to get greater capacity. It's not to not have blight enforcement. It's actually to have more blight enforcement. And we now, I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be at full staff. And we've got some really qualified people. The office now has the capacity to handle not just Spanish speakers, but also those who speak Portuguese. And I think that's very helpful. The mayor has elevated the assistant planner. We were sad to lose Dave Colleen. He agreed to work on occasion on special projects as a consultant. Of course, he's still a resident taxpayer and voter, and we're happy to have him assisting. We've posted the code enforcement position, so we should be filling that position soon. And we've interviewed, and I brought on a consultant concerning the planning and development. So as people know, we're going to a planner model for the leadership here so that we get not just supervision in the department, but also we have a direction where we have a planner helping and assisting the office who is not burdened and not forced to focus on development. I think the mayor rightfully is addressing some of those needs in other areas of the budget. And we're going to be looking, the grant writer has already begun increasing the capacity of our grant office. And you see that position listed there. And so we're going to be able to have a greater development capacity by going in that direction, and it'll have less stress on the budget. And we will be able to entice and encourage development people with outside resources that I think will encourage a greater level of development. So that's how you see, I think, the budget listed here. Otherwise, there aren't any changes. Frank Gladwin, who has many more years experience, both with the city and in this department than myself, can go into detail about how he envisions those positions. So I am available for any questions anybody might have.
So, really quick, I just have one thing to say. I am tickled pink over the two gentlemen, Lloyd and Matt, right? I think is their names, and the work that they've been doing. When I send them something, they have been very quick to respond, and I appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. I know there is somebody else, Carlos, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly positive his name. I've been really just, please make sure, Frank or Lee, that you do tell them that I really been impressed and thankful for the job that they're doing when I reach out to them. So, but can you just explain to me what is the difference between the three of them and then the two people? Because from what people think that we don't even have blight officers, and I don't even think that's an appropriate title. You know, I think it's part of their job duties. So could you break that down a little bit for me? So when I'm looking at page 47 and I see the lists of people, zone code enforcer, assistant building official, building maintenance zone enforcer, what is what and who is who?
Well, so I forgot to mention one other thing. We've begun the rollout of the new computerized system in the building office, which will affect permitting, freedom of information requests, people accessing data on particular properties, and will also provide increased revenue over the calendar year, and we'll just have to see what that amounts to, and it will depend on how much activity they have, of course. So that's a positive development, and we work to roll that out seamlessly. But basically what you're trying to find here, and what we didn't have before, is we actually don't want blight to fall to 2 people. We want blight to fall to 5 people. So you're going to hear from Frank Gladwin later. Frank Gladwin is a blight officer in addition to his other duties. Every other ABO is going to be a blight officer. With the assistance of the new planner that we're going to bring on in the next couple of weeks, the new planner will be able to do a proactive, we're always going to have a reactive blight enforcement, but they're going to start a proactive blight enforcement by sort of dividing up the city and attacking it in a grid fashion, because that's one of the shortcomings we've always had. We had a reactive system, which was difficult because you could go to a blighted property that was complained of, and you might look to your left and see a blighted property and look to your right and see a blighted property, and the poor blight officer didn't have the capacity to, you know, see every blighted house within eye view because he has another blighted property to go to that he got complaints on. So we are going to, the ABOs will have all their regular tasks, but we are going to segregate some blight duties. And like I say, it's going to be top down. It's going to be Frank Gladwin is going to lead by example, as he's done throughout his career here in West Haven. And we're going to see a greater capacity on blight enforcement. in addition, we're probably going to work with Mr. McCarthy in the building department, because there are some slight issues that come to his jurisdiction, and it might be useful that he be able to direct some of the blight enforcement out of his office. So we're exploring how to implement that and
Okay.
coordinate
So,
this department with this department.
so you keep saying planner. So just so that we understand, the Commissioner of Planning and Development isn't actually, is being, the job title and job description is being overhauled. We're not going to actually have that.
Well, no, not really. If you charter, the Commissioner of Planning and Development, let me just get the proper section here. It says that the Director of Planning and Zoning shall exist in the absence of a commissioner's position. Section 3 of Chapter 14. So that's the direction we're going in. We're going to have a Director of Planning and Zoning, as opposed to someone who has to address development issues, bring developers in, and try to make the city a place where developers have one-stop shopping. We are going to address that in other areas of the budget. We're also going to address that by utilizing the grants coordinator and utilizing funding resources that don't need to be in the city budget in order to enhance development. So the planner can just supervise his office and can engage in real planning for the city as the city continues to develop and grow, and not have to be burdened with dividing their time between one or the other. Our analysis of the last planning and development folks is that we never seem to get the full complement. We never seem to get the supervisory thing. We never seem to get enough development out of the development side, and we never seem to hire somebody that has experience as a planner. And we did have, you know, Dave Colleen was a very experienced planner, and that was helpful. But we think that our office will be better suited to having more planning capacity, not less.
Okay, so I have one more question, and then I'm gonna move on, because I guess I need to understand one thing, because I hear a lot of people talk about it, but I personally don't understand it. So let me kind of just get it out before you jump on the answer. I know that we encourage development. We go after development. We want people to come in and we want them to develop in our city. Can you speak to the responsibility of the city to then get renters out of those facilities? Because part of what I'm thinking, right? How do we take on that responsibility? How do we bring in a developer and then, you know, we partner with them, we do, you know, what we can, but how do we actually do that when the city is what, 10 miles square? I don't even know how big we are. And we have all this development, you know, how would we do it for one and then not do it for the other 15? You know, and then if you're talking about finding them renters, you know, finding who's going to take those spaces, doesn't that get us into trouble? Like, how do we support all of that? And is that the expectation of, you know, what other towns are doing and booming with development? Do they really, is it really Milford that's finding the renters for the developers? Did I ask that question right? Like, do we understand what I'm thinking, what I'm asking?
Well, I think I understand what you're trying to ask. The city of West Haven is not the town of Westport. It's not North Haven. It's not New Haven. It's not Hartford. So the city of city of West Haven has unique characteristics that are unique to it. 10.8 square miles. It is a densely populated place. It is the smallest land area So it has challenges. It also has advantages. What we've been doing on the development side is we have a group of people led by the mayor that have, done a few things. We, established the economic investment zone. We got some land sales out of that, future development. We're doing the solar array. We have a solar consultant. We're going to expand on that and probably look at the surface parking side to things. You're going to hear at your next meeting about parking. And of course, we're going to certainly piggyback parking and make sure that's placed properly in the economic development scheme. There's other things that in the next couple of weeks you're going to hear going on. But I think you have places in the budget where we're going to have monies for developer assistance. And we're going to have capacity to have people come in who have specific experience with what everybody wants. What does everybody want? Everybody wants people and businesses to locate in the city who otherwise wouldn't locate in the city. No community needs assistance to get somebody who's coming here anyway. So, would we reach out to UNH students to rent apartments in West Haven? We probably don't need to do that. They're probably already going to the school, and if they're going to need an apartment, they're probably already renting in West Haven. But recruiting businesses that might have other options, those are the business entities we talk to. The other thing we encourage is expansion of existing business, which is reaching out to businesses about opportunities. I know that I personally reached out to existing businesses concerning the economic investment zone and have had very favorable response. And so existing businesses are thinking about potential opportunities there. But West Haven has some unique situations. I think unfortunately, it takes a combination. So let's take the parking. Everyone talks about, you have this beautiful undisturbed beach. I think it's the largest open beach in the state of Connecticut. And then you'd say to and then when you have conservation space, so on and so forth, you say to yourself, we need to monetize it. Well, the first step to monetizing it in the view of this administration was to try to organize and capitalize on the parking, which is what we're going to do with the parking study. And then make sure the parking encourages, doesn't discourage business opportunities. And then we also have leverage if we control particular areas of real estate. So if we know that somebody has an interest, if we own the real estate, obviously we get involved. If we don't own the real estate, but the real estate they're interested in is a poor taxpayer, we have some advantages there. But it's really, what you see is that it's really just reaching out. What I would hope to get when we get this budget passed from additional development capacity, and I'll have and have had development consultants come in to help with particular issues, but with additional development capacity, what would be nice is someone that can bring some of the ideas that work in other communities that are similarly situated to West Haven, that are successful. So that really would be the focus of a true development person. And then secondarily, the true development person could then follow up. A lot of development needs what I would call nursing. So you really need somebody who's really just going to pick up the phone, hey, how's it going, so on and so forth.
All right.
But
no, I hear what look, I'll give an opportunity to the rest of the council to ask some questions.
yeah, and cut me off if I'm going too long. You're not offended. Sorry.
Lee, I respect you greatly, but yes, definitely. Does anyone else, Councilwoman Hamilton, do you have your hand up?
I do. So Lee, you might have, hi Lee, I'm sorry, excuse my manners. Hello.
Councilor Hamilton, good evening.
Hi. So you may have answered it, so please be, excuse me if you did. But what I thought I heard Councilwoman Hosky ask is it the responsibility of the city to find tenants for developers? And if you answered it, thank you, but if you can just do it again, I appreciate it.
Concisely.
Okay, so look, a municipality is just that. Even when we sell land, right? If we have land to sell for a commercial purpose, the city of West Haven is not in the commercial land business. We're not in the property management business. And history would tell us when we go into that business, we're not good at it. We're just not. We hang on to properties too long. We don't move properties quickly enough. The public requirements are such that it's hard to maximize even pricing because the normal free marketplace uses, commercial brokers and so on and so forth. So that being said, should a municipality be in the business of helping a particular developer get tenants? I mean, technically, no, that's free market stuff, right? So why are we doing that? On the flip side, obviously you want to help with success, and you also want to help developers if you can. So if there are programs, financial programs that could assist the tenant, there you do need to help. You do need to help the developer or the owner of the space who might not otherwise know that. And then you could match those additional resources, those public resources, to the particular needs of a tenant. And now you got a deal, right? Now the tenant is interested in that lease space. The other thing is if there are any particular issues relative to a particular tenant where they might have needs that only the city would have to sign off on, or only the city could help with, or if they have questions, I've been talking about parking here tonight, whether or not there are parking issues. So there are instances where it's not only appropriate, it's almost necessary to interact with a developer concerning that. But yeah, no, generally a developer comes in, they're in the free marketplace, they find tenants for their particular sites. We don't necessarily find them tenants. If Tesla was going to locate here, would we help them find a location? Of course, we'd fall all over ourselves to find a location. But if Tesla found a location that we didn't own, we wouldn't necessarily be involved in the negotiation on that lease. And if a private entity found Tesla and they wanted us to just kind of stay out of the way, we wouldn't get in the way of that deal. So it's been my experience that this administration believes in private enterprise to the fullest extent possible. And so we do want developers to have that. But this administration has never turned down a developer's request for any type of information or assistance if we can be helpful. And there have been occasions where particular leads, if you call them that, someone might want to develop a restaurant or some sort of business or medical facility, and we do point them to directions and opportunities so that that's facilitated. And if, everybody knows somebody, right? So if in your particular sphere that you're interacting with, you might come across information, we don't play hide the ball with that information. We share that with developers if it's useful.
I'm sorry, Lee. So if I understand you correctly, I'm just gonna be straight. Let's talk about the Beckerman project. All right, it's in Allentown, so I want to go there, and it's been brought up before. So I think that we did a lot, right, for that developer. We help maybe if we can with infrastructure and things like that. And I think that, tax abatement, if they come before us and we feel so led to do. However, I just want to know though, you might have answered it a second time. I just need a kind of a yes or a no kind of answer. Do we find tenants for developers that create retail space? Is it you know, because I don't know, it could be the city's job to do that, but is it really?
Look, technically, that isn't the city's job, but we want, Mr. Beckerman has invested a lot of money in the city and we want him to succeed. So if he
Right.
reaches out and he points out areas where we could be useful and helpful, we try to be useful and helpful. I mean,
Right.
for example, you know, we've recently applied for brownfield grant money. And some of those grant funds, if approved, Mr. Beckerman would benefit by it. So that's like found money. You could clean up some things. The city doesn't come out of the city budget, doesn't come out of Mr. Beckerman's pocket. So that's a positive thing. And, you know, we'll continue to do more along those lines, try to find grants, try to find other ways to help. But look, if somebody walks into my office and says they have so I've met with people that have development ideas. I just met with people this week for some fairly significant ones, and you know, I'm not going to turn that meeting down.
Right.
And if someone comes in and says, you know, they're looking for a particular space, we certainly facilitate their communication with Mr. Beckerman, but we don't get involved in the negotiation. I mean, the only thing you could really do more than that is, again, if you had a developer on staff who had particular success in another community with some particular program. I mean, you might have a program that, you know, I don't know, if you had some meeting, maybe people show up. Part of the issue that people shouldn't ignore, because it's obvious, but it's significant, it needs to be said. COVID has had an impact, of course, on all retail activity. You know, everybody in it, you know, you've got people working from home, you've got businesses downsizing, you know, suggesting that maybe people can work from home. Now, anecdotally, I think all of us know plenty of people who can't wait to get out and about, who don't want to be homebodies, who want to go out to those restaurants, who want to go out to other facilities and interact, who want to actually see people. So I think this is all going to change, but I think if you're Mr. Beckerman, who's put a lot of money into a development, you get a little nervous with COVID because it was unexpected. You didn't plan for it. You didn't plan for it monetarily. So he's probably more anxious than he might otherwise be. But
right, and I wish him great success. I really do, because it's a beautiful. It has brought Allentown up 100-fold, and I just wish him the best of. I want to see activity there, but I don't want to spend this whole thing. It's not about Beckerman. It's just I just needed to know, you know, where we stood in the city. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate it.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Lee, thank you for coming tonight. Frank, I see you there. Thank you for showing up as well. Maybe, Frank, you can answer this. If not, maybe Lee. Kind of getting back to those 5 assistant building official jobs, going from 3 to 5, correct?
I think, Frank, no disrespect, Gary, I think that would fall under, we're still in the, we haven't gotten to Frank's side yet.
It's under planning and development, or I jumped the gun? Because Lee kind of brought that up. I just didn't know.
No, I know. I guess.
Oh, yeah. All right, that's my fault. I should have just stuck to the half a page of the budget. My mistake.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I did as well, and then I realized. So if you don't mind, just if we have any other questions regarding development, I'd rather just get that out of the way instead of Gary, if that is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Did you have anything for Lee? Or
Well, Lee, yeah, I mean, you and I have been working together, and I think things are going really well. We are, just to make it correct, we are closing on a few of those deals, correct?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we'd close on one of the enterprise zone deals tomorrow, except my paralegal had to be out. So we're probably going to do that Monday. The other larger deal has other brownfield issues that are not insurmountable obstacles. It's just a little more complicated closing, but I would anticipate that would take place in no more than 2 weeks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I'll save my question for the next go round.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Any other questions for Lee? Councilman Cohen?
Hi, Lee. I just want to clarify just on the budget. I just want to confirm the following, at least as I understand it from the beginning, that the listing of Commissioner of Planning and Development that is going to be paid 100 or a recommended amount of $100,494 a year, you're basically calling a Director of Planning and Zoning. Just a yes or no would be great. Just want to make sure that we're talking the same thing.
I will always answer a question if I can. I will always answer a question yes if I can.
Okay.
But if I can't, I will elaborate. So I will try to be as accurate as I can. In your charter, chapter 14, page 20, section 3, the mayor has the right to appoint a director of planning and zoning. They exist in the absence of a commissioner. So she has the right to reverse that in the charter and go back to a director of planning and development. We're trying this new thing. So I would get that would be that person would be in that position.
Okay, so that salary is basically based on whatever. I just want to make sure that we're paying for whatever the name of the position is most likely coming out of that line item. That's what am I assuming yes or no? I mean, that's really, I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that we have a line item to pay for this person. That's all. And that's why I'm asking.
Yes, I would. That's correct. I anticipate that person to be paid out of that line.
Okay.
And we are finding that's what in that with that capacity get paid.
Right. And the assistant planner, is that an open position now that David left, or do we find someone for assistant planner?
No, we have an assistant planner. She's been working in Dave's out of grade, and she's been promoted.
Okay. Is that Kathy or somebody else?
I know you guys do that. I don't like to use the names of particular.
Okay, that's fine. But it's basically filled, which is fine. And the zone code enforcement officer, is that position filled?
So that was held, of course, by the person who filled the planner position. So we had to wait till she that position. It has now been posted, and we anticipate filling that.
Okay, so that one's posted, and I'll hold my other questions because that is it for the planning and development part, and I'll hold on to the stuff for Frank. And beyond that, I do appreciate your perspectives on planning and development. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any questions for Corp Counsel Tiernan? All right. Oh, Chairman.
Hey, Lee, I'm just gonna go on the record. I think I've been on the record for the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years regarding this. And I know it's not an easy lift, but as we're kind of turning our financial house around and we're coming out of COVID, I'd really love to see us beginning to start thinking about a livable cities initiative, right? A way to where departments could collaborate and bring our housing stock to where I think it should be, and to do that with our housing code, education of our landlords and our tenants, and to put some type of inspection process in place to ensure that the people that are living in this community are safe and the housing stock that is in this community is compliant and up to code. Maybe this is an opportunity as we kind of reorganize to once again take a look at that.
Well, if you, and I don't want to anticipate what the council does, but if you look at your planning and development budget, you'll see that there is a line item for a development consultant. And what we plan to do one of the tasks or one of the goals, once that planning consultant position is budgeted, I've already had conversations with them. We plan to work with the Housing Authority, and we plan to, we dismantled a 501c3 that wasn't working. We're going to replace it with a 501c3 that can do more than what that 501c3 was doing. So we plan to add other grant and other funds to that position. So I think to say, I mean, look, we're never going to have the capacity to have the same livable cities initiative that New Haven has. But I think you're going to find that we're going to start putting the pieces together, assuming that position is budgeted, that we utilize every tool we have to begin to accomplish what you described.
Yeah, and many years ago, we had a pilot program, which I know Frank remembers, and I think it was successful, but it came down to bandwidth, right? There were too many things, juggle, and the same amount of staff to do it. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to future discussions on it. Thank you, Councilwoman Hoskin. I'm all set.
Any other questions for Lee? Okay. Well, Frank, thank you, Lee. We'll talk to you some more later. Frank, welcome. We're glad to see you. We hope you are getting a lot of sun. Is there anything you want to go over, or did you want us to just start firing off questions? How do you want this evening to go?
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the building department. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Just briefly, if I could back up just a little bit in time, from where I sat with the city back in 1990, when Jim Hill came on board, he developed as the commissioner, he developed planning and development, as you might recall. That's where it all started from. So the changes that the city is looking to do, I think are pretty good changes in a direction that probably needed to be done. So the 10.5 square miles, about 55,000 people, we are dense and we are busy. If I go back in time and probably about the middle to late 90s, when we had Van Selvin, he was our commissioner at that time. He was the gentleman talking about how do you get businesses to come in. Well, his background, as you may recall, was with the state of Connecticut, and he developed Sawmill Road. He got the Texas Roadhouse, he got the Hampton Inn, he got the Firestone, the Aldi's, the Walmarts. So it takes someone, in my view, someone who has that experience, not thinking about it or dreaming about it, but schmoozing and making things happen. And then if you want to make things happen, have a working building department that encourages development, have a good health department, keep it safe, but move things along. So I think bureaucracy could sometimes be a stranglehold on development. But if we work for the betterment of the city, I think we'll certainly be successful. And I think the fact that Lee had brought up, I'm looking at it now, planning development on my page 54, it lists all the different personnel details. And on that, just to answer a comment that may come from Mr. Donovan, the building officials there, and we do have listed on there 5 ABOs, assisting building officials, and we do have a slot there for 1 property maintenance / zoning enforcement officer. The idea of having the ABOs, and this came from the mayor's encouragement, is to have an individual who not only can cite blight, but can take that problem and develop it into the state building code for corrections. To go with Councilperson Ron Quagliardi said, we did have a successful program when we worked with the University of New Haven. We were proactive, but we ran out of not enough people to do the job that needed to be done. So I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a matter if we want to follow that light. But I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. I appreciate your comments. They give us hope. So, I mean,
that's good stuff.
No, so I really do appreciate, like I said earlier, some of the work that, your men have been doing.
Thank you.
And could you just, I get it, but could you just go into depth just a little bit more about, the idea that you said that Mayor Rossi had that you believe was a good idea in regards to what your employees used to be able to do, and now with this the new titles, just how we're getting more bang for our buck, right? How you're able to, can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Our property maintenance / zoning enforcement officer was a title that was given to them. They had no background. They did not have the legal leverage to use the state building code to make people comply when they were out of compliance. So it was, and don't misunderstand me, it was good that the people went out there, they found the bad guys, they found the problems, but it was just one step that left a big void that eventually would have to circle back to the building department, and myself or staff would take it from the building department's point of view to make the correction take place. Now what happens is we don't have, if I can use it, the middleman anymore. Now it could be myself or staff who would go out there and hypothetically finding the guy that started the work without the permit, finding the illegal basement apartment, finding those type of things. And that person would have the legalese, if I could say that, and the accreditation, the credentials as a building official to take action, quicker action, and the hammer falls a little bit harder on those people. So that, I believe, is what the mayor wanted to do, and I think it's a good move, and I think we're seeing some good stuff coming out of that. I don't know if I answered the question clearly for you.
No, it really is, and I just think that, you know, the mayor could have all the ideas she wants, right? But unless that works for the department heads, unless you buy into that and it works for you, it's what, you know, so it's really great to hear that, you know, you're supporting it or that you support it and that it's just making such a difference for you and the people that you're working with. So
absolutely. And pardon me, and to tie in with one of the gentlemen said earlier, working with Tom McCarthy on DPW. So Department of Public Works has an issue that has to do with the public way. We, on our side, deal with the private buildings. So our collaboration, working together, there's a measure of success there with that too. So yeah, I think it's a good move, and I'm happy we're going in this direction from my point of view.
No, definitely. Thank you so much. I'm gonna open it.
All right.
Councilman Donovan, please go right ahead. Thank you.
No problem. Frank, again, thank you very much. And to be honest with you, you pretty much answered the question exactly what I was going to ask, was, will you have more authority, basically, and you answered that with that. I do appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
And getting more people is not a bad thing at all, as far as I'm concerned for it. So thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you. And if I could just make a comment, and I shared this with the mayor not too long ago, we broke our $1 million mark on, I think it was the latter part of March. So, and we still have 2 more months, May and June. So right now we're about $1,095,000 for permit fees that we've taken in. And as you know, our budget is just over $500,000. So not only paying for our department, but we're also putting money into the kitty, so to speak. We're putting in the general fund. And we're all happy and we're all working hard to do that. So I just want to point out to you, there's good news with that. Money's coming in.
Frank, I don't think I've ever heard. My mother used to use that term all the time. Always, you always have to have a kitty. Like you gotta have your kitty. That was. I'm sorry, Councilman Donovan. Were you done? I apologize. So I just want to make sure, Frank, because you started with the million and it kind of threw me off. So I want to just take you back about 30 seconds ago.
Sure.
Are you telling me that we thought you were going to bring in $500,000 in permit fees and you brought in over $1 million already this fiscal year?
Oh, no. Yeah. Last fiscal year, we took in $1,057,000. This fiscal year, the same point from July 1st to April 16th, we took in $1,094,000. No, I'm just simply saying our budget for our department is over $500,000. So we've certainly paid for our budget and we put money into the general fund.
Well, let me be the first to thank you for that. You're just showing off, Frank.
Well, no, I appreciate that. But one of the things is, and it's just from learning and encouragement from the mayor and other staff people, we developed a reconciliation fee. If you started a job and it was worth $1 million, let's say, and the city got 25,000 on permit fee, but when the job was over, it actually was $1,250,000. You owe the city money because we did more inspections, more plan review. And when we instituted that, and it was actually, Ron, it was UNH projects that we started instituting that actually filled the cupboard pretty well. So that's one of our big assets. For example, last fiscal year, we had 1,915 permits that were issued in the same fiscal year period. This year, we've had 1,686, lower amount of permits, but some of those projects were larger, and people like University of New Haven and Yale do reconciliation because the jobs exceed what they originally thought it would be. So that's a big plus. And we bird dog that. We make sure we get that for the city. I just want to share how we got that extra.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think it's a blessing too, when you think about it. I mean, with the year we had with COVID, you would not expect it. I mean, I'm tickled pink that it's the case, but.
If I could jump in, pardon me, if I could jump in to tie in what Ron was saying. Let's say we did decide to come up with a livable initiative program. Now let's determine in a sensible way that we say, all right, we're going to do some action out there, but it's going to be a cost. Now, maybe it's a nominal fee, whatever it is. But if you got $50 or $70, whatever it might be for each call, well, take that call times 100. Take that call times 1,000. That's additional revenue. Yeah, we're earning it and we're working at it, but we'll have a cleaner city, a prettier city, and people will get the word out that we're serious about keeping our city clean. So if that ties in, I think what Ron was trying to say. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to your project analysis for that.
Sounds good. I look forward to being part of it.
By July, August?
Well, I don't know. Hey, you got to start somewhere, right? Hey, if I can say one thing.
You can say whatever you want.
In all due respect to everybody, I think one of the problems, and I say this being a worker in the city for 30 years, one of our problems is, and only where I sit, so don't take offense to this, do we have a 5-year, a 10-year, a 15-year plan? If we don't, we're going to be talking about this 2 years from now, 3 years now. We have to get the 50-year plan, right, Ron? No matter what that plan is, and we got to stick to it to make it happen. And I've seen it at Sawmill Road. I know it works. And that gentleman that left, he had dreams for Beach Street. He also had dreams for what's happening now down at the Bilko. He was in the very early stages of developing that, and things happened and he no longer was with us. But so I know it could be done. I've seen it.
No, thank you so much, Frank. I really do appreciate your comments. I mean, you have years of experience and expertise, so it's important.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. The 5-year plan for a livable city initiative, I'll keep reminding the chairman about that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Frank? Councilman Cohen?
Hi, Frank.
Good evening,
First of all,
Barry.
Frank, before I start, I just want to thank you because I'm the biggest pain in the you-know-what with you. You're just, I mean, I just, I'm a Jewish boy and all I do is whine to you, So what can I say? I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you just do a wonderful job. I just wanted, just for clarity's sake, okay, for my own clarity's sake, excuse me. So we are looking of the, and I understand, and I actually agree with Mayor Rossi. I know she brought this up last year regarding, more optimization of the position. So you're not just doing blight, but you're able to do blight plus really be able to do a heck of a lot more and make it more powerful. And we talked about this since I've been on the councils, probably before I came on the council, I have no idea. So that, and I, bravo on that. Okay. In terms of though, just for my head straight is we're looking for 5 people. Right now, do we have 3 or 4 people? That's what, because I don't want to name names because I know that we noted that we probably shouldn't name names, but I mean, I think I know 3 or 4 people. Like how many of the zone, of that position do we have filled right now?
Hi, Barry. I know on the phone several times. I think this might be the first time I've actually seen your face, so I didn't
It's a
even,
beautiful face. It's a bald head.
so yeah. See it there.
And
But,
shines.
but, listen, we got one building official, that's me, and currently, right now, we have 4 ABOs, assistant building officials. And right now, one of our building officials is taking the lead from the property maintenance side. And we have other ideas, as was mentioned by Lee Turner, with one of our gentlemen who has the ability to speak another language, and he has a background in some other things
Sure.
that I believe will be an asset to our department.
So we have 4 right now, and I understand how we might get that, possibly might get that 5th person. Okay,
That's
I
correct.
just want to make sure that we're still have to fill that one position, but we have, well, we might be on the 10-yard line, who knows right now.
That's
Okay,
right.
You know, okay. The other thing too is a comment that was made briefly early on. Oh God, I'm gonna, right. And I understand why we now only have one code enforcement officer, or what I'm going to use the word, I use the word blight officer, for, you know, but, you know, is that the individual, what I think is our goal, and if it's not, that eventually, I'm not saying in this year's budget, but in a future budget, that we don't have any more zone enforcement officers, but we would have that 5th or 6th, oh goodness me, zone enforcement person. I want to be sure I use the right title. So the idea is just to be, you know, a blight officer is a blight officer. We know what that does. We know what a code enforcement officer does. But right now we saw that one position there that is going to still be there. But what you really have essentially, I know people have different responsibilities. I get everyone has different responsibilities, but what you have essentially is all, well, once you hire the person, 5 or 6 people optimally, and you being the 6th or 7th person, could all be doing blight. Not to say you would, but you all have that capability. Is that,
That's right.
All right, so I'm sorry, please.
That's correct, Councilman. As I look at our approved budget from the mayor, we still have that position, property maintenance / zoning enforcement officer.
Right.
If we go back in time, part of that was with the property maintenance and blight and working with the police department, there were issues relative to cars on lawn, illegal parking. So that person who didn't have necessarily credentials, but they had a lot of gusto, they would go out there and they would fight the fight on behalf of zoning. That's how the ZEO got into it. And it also gave that person a limited authority to sign off on permits as an enforcement officer. That's why that position is still in there. But I guess if I had to say anything, for the biggest bang for the buck for the city, you might want to consider filling in all the ABOs. But clearly, with having 4 ABOs and 1 BO, I'm telling you, we got a good running start here.
You got 4, but you're going to have 5 ABOs. Well,
man.
Well, the plan is to have 5 ABOs in that one. You know, what I'm basically saying is, you know what, to Chairwoman Hosky's point, you know, people are under the misnomer that we don't have any blight officers. You know, and I know myself, and I know many people on this council always have to correct me. What do you mean we don't have any blight officers?
Sure,
You know, we have, you know, I mean, you know, it's like, you know, I have to say that, you know what, I don't, you know, in this council there might be disagreements in terms of certain silos and budget lines and philosophies and economic development and how this person approaches it versus that person approaches it, or how they develop it or what titles are. But I'll tell you one thing. I would tell you that this building department, in my short time here, I'm so thrilled to see us. Really, you do a great job, Frank, in your whole, and I'm very excited to see some of these newer people. I won't name names, but the couple of interactions I had with a couple of newer people, I was like, oh my God, it was just great. And so with that said, I'm glad that you set me straight. In terms of your other budget lines, I did not really have any questions. I just assumed that your convention and dues went up because you got more people, so you got more dues to pay. That's pretty much what I was looking at.
Well, that part of that, the convention and dues, part of that too, Mr. Cohen, is that
Don't call me Barry, please.
Barry, excuse me. We were anticipating going to a new code cycle. It was going to be the 2021 state building code, but because of COVID, that got delayed. It won't start till 2022. So that was the purpose of that.
So you don't need that whole, well, I shouldn't say you don't need. I
Well,
understand. Oh, I'm sorry. What you requested versus what the recommendation was. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, because I was wondering why such the big ask, but
Yeah.
I understand why things happen. So,
But I think if you looked over the building department's budget at the end of the day, in the fiscal year, I think you'll find I always stay within the budget. If anything, I underspend. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm very conservative and conscious because I recognize it's not my money, it's the city's money. So I use it, I think it through before I spend anyways.
well, I tell you, just thank you. I'm going to close out and saying, I wish we could clone you, Frank. I wish we could clone you. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it.
All right. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hello, Mr. Gladwin, how are you?
Good evening, Ms. Hamilton. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Good. I don't have anything to say about your budget, but I just want to say that we just keep on taking away that retirement cake from you, huh? Every time you get ready to slice it, we snatch it away. But I'm very grateful that you are still with us here. And it has, I think it was said before, and I want it said on the record, that anytime I call your office, Lloyd and Matt are very, very helpful. So please carry that back to them. Family Dollar has been less of a pain in the neck. I want to report that to you. And I think that has a lot to do with you. Your approach is very kind and thoughtful, but with the iron fist, and it worked. So I just want to thank you for all that you and your staff does.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Appreciate that.
Do we have any additional questions for Frank? All right, well, thank you so much, Frank. I wanted to say to Robin, you are appreciated, you and your staff and your wisdom. I'm glad we keep the cake away as well. No cake for you. No time soon. But take care and stay safe. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Good night. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Oops. Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Here we go.
Oh, there you are. How are you? Do you want to review your budget at all, or did you want us to just ask questions? It's completely up to you.
Sure, I can give you the Reader's Digest version. It's essentially the budget that we submitted last year with the additional minimum wage increase put in. So I don't know if you've gone through the budget, if you can, how much heads or tails you can make out of it without the detail. But what the situation we have is if the minimum wage is going up now, this is the third year in a row, it's going up $1. It's going to go up 2 more. And the majority of our part-time and seasonal employees are at or around minimum wage. So we're looking at, a wage increase with the majority of our staff that was somewhere in the vicinity of like 5 to 7%. It's gone down a little bit since last year, but that's still another $1 on top of 12. Next year, it'll be $1 on top of 13. And just for perspective, our department has, let's see, the full-time salaries for recreation are $326,207. The part-time salaries, and this includes all the constables, the beach lifeguards, all the pool staff, camps, playgrounds, after school, special activity, aerobics, Tai Chi, etc., karate. Our part-time wages are $554,602 of our budget. That leaves for equipment, supplies, maintenance, safety supplies, bus service, tickets and park entry, et cetera, it leaves us with $63,887. So while you're looking at, close to $1 million budget, it's $870,000, $881,000 in salaries between the full-time and part-timers. So, we understand the situation that the city's in. We don't have a lot of wiggle room, in terms of what we can and can't do non-staff related. But, as far as the mayor's recommended budget, I'm comfortable with it. We've operated under it. I'm looking forward to reopening. What we do at the end of the day is all about people. So I believe that the majority of our budget should really go towards staffing. It's a lot of part-time jobs for high school kids, college kids, retirees. The majority of that money is going directly back into the community. I believe that there is a high degree of velocity to that money, where it's changing hands. It's multiple times. And the velocity of the money, I think, is more important than the actual amount, because it's just better for the economy locally when that money is being spent and then paying a vendor who's using it to spend on something else. And so, that's where we're at the end of the day. Everything we do, whether it's athletics or it's just parks and open spaces, picnics, camps, it's really about people. And we're blessed to have the ability to hire very fine local people, and I think the interaction, the interpersonal dynamic at the end of the day is the absolute most important thing, that it enhances someone's experience, validates the experience for them, enhances their quality of life. We're here for the residents. We need to keep our finger on the pulse of the community, and this is how we do it. If anyone has any questions before I carry on much longer.
Well, I want to say, before you came on, I think we might have aged out, maybe not. But I raised my daughter through the summer camp program, and 2 out of my 3 sons were employed for many years through your program, and I can't say enough about it. I mean, Tiana, I think, was employed 1 year as well. So I definitely do see the impact that, Park and Rec has in the city. I'm a huge proponent, and I appreciate all that you do and your staff. Can you maybe just quickly update the council? Because maybe some of us they may not know, but last year you had a smaller program because of COVID. Can you just speak to quickly, like, what you'll be able to do this year? Are you completely opening back up, or how that's going?
So we're not sure. We're anticipating the governor making a large announcement shortly. We've been preparing for all scenarios. We were greatly minimized last summer in terms of numbers and participation. I think we did a good job of meeting the needs of the community in terms of the parents who needed childcare because they were going back to work, and some of the parents who just, quite frankly, needed a break from their kids because they had been out of school for several months. So basically what we looked at was we had a benchmark from last year, which was basically the small programming package. And that's where we started out. And so we're looking at being able to expand it to full capacity. So I'm satisfied that we'll be able to do whatever the governor gives us the opportunity to. I'm hoping to get back to full camp and playground sites and the full complement of activities, especially outdoors. We had taken as much of our indoor programming as possible and moved it outdoor in the fall, away from the schools, to kind of take the burden off of the schools where we usually were operating in the gymnasiums and cafeterias, and those areas had been repurposed. So we utilized Painter Park and the pavilions, which we were able to have activities under even during reasonably inclement weather. And then, fast forward to the winter when the big wave hit. And at that point, what we've really been focusing on, and I'd like to thank both Tom McCarthy, Ernie Chirelli, as well as Tommy Conroy from our department. We've been going through the parks, the playgrounds, the courts. We've been basically doing audits on just about everything. We're doing improvements to the playground structures. We finished the basketball court at Nike. We've moved on to Painter, is about to get painted. We're doing repairs at the court also at Morris Park, Brennan Field. We have plans to refurbish the tennis courts. We've done some extensive park cleanups. If anyone has been in Painter Park lately, it looks tremendous. You know, we've basically loaned, we only have one clerk in our office. We've been getting by with it, but we did loan her out to the building department for about 8 weeks for coverage. They were very, very busy and had to schedule some vacations, also had illnesses. You know, the pool and waterfront coordinator has been on maternity leave since March. She'll be coming back right before the summer season opens. Our open position that was vacated by Diane, who's moved on to Youth Services Bureau. That position's been open since Thanksgiving. That position will be filled within a week or two. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to the full complement of staff, you know, and hoping to do as much programming as we can this summer. And then in the interim, I've been working on the Tidegate project, a boat launch project for West River, all the environmentals. And I believe like the most important role I think I play is out in the community. I need to be out of the office and talking to the residents and collaborating and interacting with them, especially the proactive stakeholders we have. So, you know, I'm very active with the Connecticut DEP, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, been doing a lot of work again lately with the Audubon, with the birding season coming up, you know, and all the local, whether it's the, you know, people that were on the beautification committee for a long time, the sustainable CT, we have a lot of people interested in doing pollinator planting, anything that revolves around the parks and the open spaces. I really need to be very engaged with the community in terms of finding out what they need, what they want, and how they can be involved, because my take on it is that we have tremendous facilities, tremendous potential with our open spaces, you know, and you know, we suffer the same issues that other communities do in terms of vandalism. But you know, where I sit, the most protective thing we can do with the parks and open space areas is be in them and utilize them. People that engage in those undesirable activities generally do that where nobody, you know, where it's quiet and no one's around. So, you know, first of all, you know, I'm trying to find people who are interested in these various outdoor resources that we have and find out where their value lies and what their skills are, and then engage them in the resource itself and create proactive stakeholders who can now, you know, lobby for these facilities and these resources with the full understanding of what they are, how they function, what their potential is, and how clearly they can communicate to you guys the importance of those things. You know, none of us are going to be here forever, and I'd like to think that some of the work that we've all done is going to carry on, and I believe the legacy lies in the work of the residents. You know, and again, there's nothing like having proactive stakeholders who feel engaged and as if they have a little skin in the game. It's really, the model's really worked well for me over the last year.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna just open it up to the entire council. Does anyone have any questions for Mark? Councilwoman McGee?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Mark, for being with us today. Nike site looks amazing. I drive by it all of the time. And actually, a couple days ago, I saw a group of very sweaty officers who had played a game with some of the kids over there. And I got to see the tail end of it. So that was cool to see. I wanted to know about the summer jobs, youth summer jobs, what the application process looks like and how people are selected for those jobs, just for those who you know, need a deeper understanding of that, who may apply often and, you know, would like to get a job, secure a job this summer.
Sure. So we take applications until the programs start. We have a deadline of April 15th for apps. We continue to take them beyond that and consider the later ones depending on need. So we take apps until the 15th, and then we schedule everyone for an interview. So basically, everyone who's applied receives a letter from the department instructing them to call for an interview. they come in and we interview them, because especially with the camps and the playgrounds, we have to make sure that the staff we get for those locations have some interpersonal skills, and reasonable communication skills. So, and then at that point with the interview, depending on, like with the constables, for instance, we frequently do not have enough candidates by the 15th. We need to, as far as the camp starting in like the third week of June, or when school gets out, and the constables being weekends only starting Memorial Day, we generally have enough constables to start out. We frequently wind up adding some who have applied after the 15th. So if someone wants to apply, encourage them to do so. It doesn't mean that they don't have a shot because it's past the 15th. And then in terms of the rest of the jobs, the city jobs, some of them are for, there's public works jobs and parks maintenance jobs, which go through personnel. And then there's also the summer youth employment program, which I know is taking applications about through the month of May. And those positions have, I believe they may have an income requirement attached to them. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's actually what I wanted to know, if there was a specific income bracket or requirement that summer youth had to meet in order to get a summer job, and what the
Yes.
age ranges.
So summer youth does, I believe those jobs are like 15 to 19 or so. You could get the specific information from personnel. And then again, so there's really like three categories: the summer youth employment, which is income related and federally funded. And then you have the parks maintenance and highway jobs, which the hiring goes through City Hall. And then you have our recreation department jobs, where the hiring goes through City Hall via us. We're not going to just do interviews and hire people without having everybody take a look at who the candidates are and getting input on that. So
Thank you.
Mark, your volume is going up and down. I don't know if maybe the speaker's covered, or just to let you know that sometimes it gets high and low.
is it
Councilwoman
better?
Johnston? Yes, that's better.
So I'm half Italian. I'll try not to use my hands when I'm talking. I don't know if you can see, they're cut off by the screen, but it's probably just my body movement messing with the mic on the headset.
Okay. Councilwoman Johnston, you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. Hi, Mark, it's nice to meet you. I'm Councilwoman Johnston. I represent the 3rd District. I noticed when you were glossing over your park audit and the things that have been done, 3rd Ave Park didn't come up, but it did come up in our meeting with Commissioner McCarthy the other night, and he mentioned that the basketball court there was deemed unsalvageable. And I was wondering if you could first speak to that a little bit, because I'm a little bit unclear about what he meant about perhaps moving the location. I don't know if he meant within the park or somewhere else. But before I say what I wanted to say, I just wanted to get some clarity on that, please.
As far as the condition of the park, if the court's deemed unrepairable, we've been able to basically cut cracks and restore the surface through crack repair and then a resurfacing. But depending on the condition, it may require that all the asphalt is pulled up and resurfaced, and that's a lot more expensive. The asphalt that we use on basketball courts is it's a lot softer than what you would use on the road. We try to stay away from things like concrete for courts because it's really, really tough on people's knees and ankles and joints. So the tennis courts and the basketball courts, you would think would last a lot longer than a road because they don't have heavy traffic on it, but actually they're much more subject to the freeze and thaw and heaves in the winter, and they crack. As far as 3rd Avenue Park goes, I know traditionally there's been a basketball court there, but we also have a court right around the block at Morris Park, which is wide open. And I know that some of the residents have had some conflicts there with some kids in the park hanging out all day playing basketball. And we have to provide the venue for the kids to engage and play basketball. But given that we have 2 courts within a couple of blocks of one another, and a lot of the people in the neighborhood around Third Avenue have really suggested using the park more for the younger kids, and the neighborhood feels safer bringing the younger kids to the park with absent the court. I don't think it's a stretch to ask kids that you're providing these facilities to kind of just go around the block to another court. I see both sides of the argument. You buy a property across the street from the park, and you kind of maybe should expect, if you did your due diligence, that people will be engaged using the park, right? But it's a neighborhood park. It can serve a lot of roles. At the end of the day, every park can't be everything for every person. So long as we provide the resource to the community in a reasonable fashion, perhaps we could look at taking the court out of there, given there's the court at Morris Park 2 blocks away, and perhaps putting something which is more appropriate for the neighborhood needs in the park.
Okay,
it's not a suggestion on my part. It's just
Right.
It's just something for conversation.
Yeah, I would say it is something for conversation, and I especially find that a little bit concerning because we were told the other night that the reason for all that is the trees. And if it's the neighbors, I think that's an entirely different conversation. I don't know what data there is to suggest that little kids are not safe there when people are playing basketball.
I don't know that that's the case. I just do know that we need to be sensitive to the neighborhood and the neighbors and try to meet the needs of everyone. If there's something that's going on that is affecting someone's quality of life, I think it should be discussed. Quite frankly, that you brought that up, it probably, the condition of the court probably has more to do with the trees, because we have a beautiful stand of very, very mature, tall oak trees in the park. And, as far as things like our sidewalks go, we have more sidewalk damage from trees probably than anything else. So, that's definitely a valid point.
I guess I also would argue if you lived all the way down, where I live on Smith Street, and like our kids had to walk to the park, which they did all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that that the other park is just around the corner. That's a bit of a hike. And I don't know. I think that more stakeholders should be considered than just the people that chose to buy a house across the street from a park. I think there are a lot of kids in the community that do use that. And, I was a little bit taken aback to be just told that the basketball court was going to go away in a budget meeting. So I would hope that if there are some choices and decisions being made about that the council's involved, or that we're, notified of when we could have those discussions. It doesn't sound like, it almost sounds like that's.
No, I wasn't aware that there's any definitive decision to remove the court. And basically the discussion I'm having with you is what I see and the input that I've gotten from from the people in your district. There are a handful of people in the neighborhood who call frequently when things are going on in the park. I can't say they're representative of everyone in your district or everyone in your neighborhood. I certainly do think it requires more discussion, but you do need to understand that the individuals that the neighbors who are taking issue with what's going on there are taking issue with kids who aren't from the neighborhood. They're coming in by car. They're not even coming in by bike. So, again, they're not doing anything that I can see that would be, a police enforcement issue. And therefore, they basically have as much of a right to the park as everyone else, and at the end of the day, it's neither right nor wrong. If I can find a solution which is amenable to various groups and resolves all those issues, then that's where I'm going to head with it. I'd prefer to have everyone happy and engaged in our spaces. And, sometimes they can do that together, and other times people need to kind of find their own spaces. I'm certainly not looking to lose any facilities, but I certainly am amenable to looking at anything that's going to improve a park area or provide additional opportunities without removing others.
Right.
You know, and again, the crew that is playing basketball at Third Ave, it's really not an issue for them to simply use the court at Morris Park.
Okay, I don't want to monopolize the time with this discussion because clearly there need to be more stakeholders, I think, at the table. I don't think that a handful of neighbors that claim the kids are not from the neighborhood. I mean, the complaints I've heard are like, oh, they're out of state license plates. Okay, I mean, my next door neighbors are all out of state license plates because they're college kids. Like it doesn't mean you're nefarious because you're not from the neighborhood. So I just would like to have that be a larger conversation with more stakeholders at the table.
Well, certainly, and you know, again, it should be discussed. You know, the calls I got, one individual in particular was calling me several times a week, and this was right after everyone started to go outside with the pandemic, and you know, there were very, very limited opportunities. Everyone went out to our open spaces. There were people in open spaces where people in the neighborhood weren't used to seeing them. I was getting complaints about loud music and marijuana. I talked to the PD. They went down several times. There was nothing that was very actionable. But again, you know, if we can find a means to take care of everyone, you know, without losing anything, I'm more than happy to discuss it.
Thank you. That's great to hear because, you know, I think if you're enforcing noise ordinances and any other activities that are illegal, if that's happening, then that's the issue, you know, but to just, you know, say that this squeaky wheel is going to get the court removed because there's out of state plates around the park. I mean, I would think we'd all be happy to see people in our outdoor spaces. That I mean, seeing young people outside is a good thing.
Well, certainly I am too, and I would imagine that I'm probably a little more tolerant of younger people being in my profession than some others are, and you know. But at the end of the day, when we have residents calling and complaining, we have to look into it. We have to seek resolutions if we can, and that involves discussion.
So I'll contact you about follow-up, but I appreciate your responsiveness. Thank you.
I just want to piggyback off of Councilwoman Johnston. My sons, I was saying it to Tom McCarthy, were raised at Third Avenue Park. My son broke his wrist at Third Avenue Park playing basketball. With all that said, do we have a cost or do we know what the projected cost would be to put in a new basketball court? Have we gotten any prices on that?
I haven't seen anything. I wasn't privy to what was presented to the Finance Committee. You know, and again, I'm not looking to lose any basketball courts, but understand too that, you know, so I'm the director of Parks and Recreation. I run the Recreation Department. The maintenance end of it runs through Public Works. And I've been working with Commissioner McCarthy and collaborating with him. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who pull the trigger. So, you know.
Yeah, he was here the other night and I had asked and he said a refurbish is between 20 and 30. And I had forgotten to ask him, did they put out a request for a price? So I was just curious if you knew, you had any idea. I am with Councilwoman Johnston in that I think a deeper discussion would need to be had before I would agree. I don't think I would ever agree. But yes, more discussion and I will definitely follow up with Tom McCarthy as well in regards to Third Avenue Park and the, the vision of it. I think with all the upgrades and everything that, Tom's department is doing, that we're going to be getting more activity. And I believe in my heart that the school system and parks are what attract people to a city. So, this mission that you and your department is on, and with partnered with Public Works, is going to change all of that, is going to make it so that we are the city that people do want to come to, want to move to, raise their children in. And basketball is a fundamental part of that. I think everybody wants that. West Haven is known for football and hockey, but basketball is going to be on the rise. I have great faith in that. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Donovan, and then Councilman Cohen, you'll be next. You're in one corner, he's in the other.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, how are you doing this morning? I heard this evening.
How are you?
Good, good. I heard you say before that you are going to refurbish those tennis courts. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Right.
we're looking into that now. The courts at the high school, we're hoping they can actually get surfaced when we're done with the basketball courts, and that's a Board of Ed project, but we can move the high school events over to our courts in order for that to happen. And then beyond that, yeah, we're looking at funding wherever we can get it and we have 6 courts at Painter Park, and they're not all used.
Those are the parks. Those are the courts I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Those
So what we're
courts.
looking to do is all the courts over. We want to, the kids keep taking the nets down to play street hockey. I think we're going to try to accommodate the street hockey players with one court, potentially like court 6, where they would be sort of off to the side, have access from one gate, and it wouldn't be a lot of interference. The other thing is pickleball is becoming very, very popular. So we were thinking of either doing a dedicated pickleball court, or we can actually line the court for tennis and pickleball. They don't interfere with one another, and it's the same net. So that was just something we were looking to do. It's fantastic for people as they get older who still have reflexes but can't move too far. It's a very quick game that doesn't involve much more than a step or two in either direction.
Right, and it's not even field. A lot of younger kids are playing it too. So I get that from a lot of the younger kids, mid-20s and stuff. Why don't we have a pickleball court, Milford? And
well, so these are, and these are the things we're looking to do, and not to backtrack in terms of the other parks and such, but we have a limited amount of space to utilize for all the things we need to do. We have a lot of duplication of services, and that's one thing that we can really look at is moving forward, what are the facilities, where do they lie in relation to one another? Because if we have, say, 3 of the same thing within a half mile of in one area, and we have one over here, and there isn't another resource like that for 2 or 3 miles, well, where we need to look to basically change gears.
Right. No, I get it. But I'm glad to hear that you guys are contemplating putting in pickleball and stuff like that. So
yeah, and we're hoping hoping that there's going to be more funding coming down the pike, whether it's at the state or federal level, because I think a lot of people weren't shocked by everyone going outside to the parks and open spaces last year, because that was the only thing they could do, but how people really rediscovered them and are continuing to come back, even though they have other options.
Right.
So, and again, I think it was Bridget that had mentioned, we're a community of homes and families, and these are the things that are absolutely the most important. And we just have to find a fair and equitable way to do that as locally as possible within the confines of our 10.8 square miles.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. I'm all set.
Thank you. Councilman Cullen?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Barry. How are you?
I'm doing okay. No matter what they say, I'm doing okay. Hey, Mark, I do have one budget question, and I preface my budget question because it gave me flashbacks of high school when George Hanchetti had mercy on me and gave me my life-saving certificate. So I could lifeguard at the pools, and God bless the man. But anyway, my question is I'm just curious on the page 94, this swimming pool staff, that was the only line item that, it went up. I mean, obviously you're going to hire more people from, or maybe you're not, from 50,000 to 74,000. So it's a substantial increase. I'm just looking to know why so much of an increase.
So this is the 73,833 you're looking at?
I'm
I'm
page
sorry.
64, 15202 50 553, and then 51070, swimming pool staff.
Okay.
It's under aquatic programs.
Yep. 1070. I believe off the top of my, I'm going to find that for you right now, but that's, I believe is the majority of the swim lesson staffing. 51070. Barry, it's the lifeguards for the AM swim, the PM swim, for all the public swimming supervision, swim
Do
lesson
we add on
guards.
people? Do we add on people? I understand what it is, only because it just jumped to a little higher than I thought it should. So are we doing more classes, or are we expecting?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
anticipating doing more classes. We weren't
Okay.
able to run swim lessons we were able to finish up a session in April. We're always limited with the swim lessons. We're always turning people away because we just didn't have the capacity.
So you'll have the capacity, or you're asking
and we
for the
really want to
capacity?
focus on getting as many kids as possible, not only back into the pool, but into the level 1 and 2 swim.
Okay.
Between the beaches and all the neighborhood pools, I think the single most important thing we can do as an agency is water safety. We don't have to produce Olympic swimmers, but it is a great idea to get the kids safe enough around the water where if they fall in, they can at least tread water until someone can help them out. So we're really going to focus on a ton of lessons this year. The second thing is there's also the playground and the day camp lifeguards for the summer programs as well, falling into that line item.
I'm sorry. So under that line item, so it's more than just pool staff, if I heard you correctly? I'm sorry.
So it's pool staff for it's basically the public swims, the lap swim programs, the lessons, and also the summer day camp at the high school pool, and the summer playgrounds program at Carrigan Pool.
But it's all pools. I got you. Okay. No, so I see that you want to expand. I understand your rationale why you want to expand the program. And I just had one other comment, because that was really it on the budget. And Mark, you said it earlier, when you talk about Park Rec, it's all about the people. I'm quoting you in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, Mark, I just want to say, that you are truly refreshing, because your only agenda, as far as I have known you in my position, is serving our families. And I can't thank you enough. I thank you for not only the fine work that you do, but for your kindness, your honesty, and your humanity. And I have to say that tonight has been, between having talked to you this evening and reviewing this and talking to Frank prior to you, we're good people. West Haven is good people, and you're good people. And I just want to thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry.
No agenda.
I could thank my parents, but again, I also feel as if I need to thank the community, because my values came from this community. I was born and raised here. I was a Park Rec kid. I played all in the youth athletic leagues. I am where I am because of my family and my extended West Haven family, all the coaches and everyone. There's so many people that had a direct effect on my life and my development. I feel very blessed, and I feel a responsibility to give it back. And I could think of worse ways to make a living, certainly, than being a recreation professional.
Well, we're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you,
I
Madam
hope that-
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else having, Councilwoman Hamilton?
Hey, Mark, thank you for coming. Mark, I'm older than some of my members here, so if you could fix your mouthpiece again, because I'm not hearing you well.
Is that better?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you, thank you.
I'm sorry.
So it was just mentioned, Carrigan Park, is that gonna reopen?
Kerrigan Pool?
Pool,
Yeah, we're planning on, and again, it's gonna have to do a lot with what comes down from the state, guidelines. And I have to say too, Maureen Lewis, our public health director, has been tremendous working with us and helping us find the safe and appropriate mitigations that allow us to do what we've been able to do. So,
because I
we
grew up in that pool, and it's missed, and I think it's important for, like, everybody to be able to swim and
yeah,
to at least save their own lives, right?
right. And yeah, as far as the lessons go, but as far as just the kids go, they just need to, we need to get them wet. They need to get in the pool in the summer. And, the playgrounds didn't have access to the water last year. The day camp didn't have access to the water. We had to plan trips to the beach for them to swim. So I'm really,
Yeah.
really looking forward to that Monday through Friday, having 4 or 5 hours of kids from the playground programs in the pool, followed by an hour to an hour and a half of public swim with the kids in the neighborhood.
Right. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, you talked about some of the larger parks that you're working on, and it all sounds great. My concern is, because there aren't any large parks in my district. So I'm looking at, like, I think it's a Kala Street Park, if I'm saying that street right. The Swampscott, the Glade Street Parks. How are those? What are those look like on your radar?
So Swampscott was one of the first ones that came up, and there's a lot of drainage issues there. And I spoke with Commissioner McCarthy about, basically, that's the park that we probably need to almost do over in terms of bringing in some sand and improving the grade of the park for drainage. It backs right up to a wetland, and it is very, very wet. And I believe we can both elevate the park and grade it by several inches using sand, which will drain well, then followed by topsoil and grass over the top. And so that, there's very few months out of the year that you can actually use parts of the park without getting wet. So we'd
Yeah.
really like to, dry the park up without affecting the wetlands. We can't really remove the water. We still have to get the water to the wetland areas. We find the appropriate way to do that. We would work with inland wetlands and Commissioner Kane on that. He's very, very responsive to the city's needs as well.
And how about, is Akala Street Park? That's been neglected for years also.
Okay. On Collis Street?
Is it Akala?
Ocala.
Ocala.
Ocala, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of smaller pocket parks that are going to require some attention. And, we've been doing it, I think, based upon demonstrated need and usage, right? So if we have a larger space where we know we already have a lot of people engaged, we've been focusing on that. And as we work our way down, parks like Ocala and Swampscott, they're really smaller neighborhood parks. What I'd like to do as well is get some input from the neighborhood as to how they envision the park and what would be useful for you as a local resident who uses the park, right? What do you envision? Because again, the parks, what good are the parks if we can't engage the people in the neighborhood into the park area?
Well, right now it's, what good are the parks, because you can't use them.
They're not usable, yeah.
So how can I help you engage the neighborhood? Because I would like to see them upgraded, and I would like to see kids out there. Not every parent can bring their kids to the larger parks that you spoke of.
Yeah.
And it's just good to have these neighborhood parks. So how can I help you do that?
And again, yeah, you're absolutely right. It goes hand in hand with everything I've been saying, in terms of, like, hey, the kids like to go to Painter Park for the wooden playground, but they're going to have so many more opportunities to use the neighborhood park, with supervision, or as they get older without supervision. The neighborhood can engage in the park. The more people are in the park, the close, the tighter the neighborhood is, and at the same time, the fewer issues you have with the park, because the appropriate, the right people engaged in the appropriate activities are using the park. And generally people who are more engaged in the things that we don't want to see will go somewhere else.
Okay,
And-
so these parks that I'm talking about, because I didn't get that last part, how it fit in to what I'm asking you. Most of these parks are for younger children. There's
Right.
no other
So this is-
activity going around. So I guess I'm just asking you, as I talk to, my constituents that live around these parks, what kind of information do you need to hear? What is it that you need? Because
you ask them, what would you like to see in the park? Would you like to see?
I think they
swings
just
and
want to see a
slides?
functional park.
Right. Would you like to see a picnic table or two? Do you feel as if some of the adults in the neighborhood might come down and utilize the open space for fresh air?
Guess
in
what?
the
And I
evening?
would speak for them and I would say, yes, they would like to see a picnic park in the park.
So
They would. I
if
think
you-
that if I brought that up, they would say yes.
So if
Do
you,
we, can, just in the interest, and Councilwoman Hamilton, I'm sorry, is there a way that maybe we can like have a meeting with your commissioners or something? Just so that we can do,
I'm
this
sorry.
just seems, you
You're
have
right.
no reason to be sorry. I don't want to cut you short and I don't want to shorten the conversation, but I think it's very pertinent. It goes to, some of what Councilwoman Johnston and I were saying about Third Avenue Park, mostly her and any of the parks, but maybe we can set a meeting up somehow with Mark and, his commission, or bring them to us at a city council meeting, Chairman. We like have it not offline, but a working meeting to discuss all of this.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Would we be able to follow up with you, Mark, and maybe do something like that?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's really beneficial because again, as we refurb the park, the neighbors are going to see themselves in the plan. There's going to be something that they were interested in, something that they had requested, or someone they know requested. Now they see themselves as a part of the bigger picture. They're much more likely to utilize the
Right.
facility.
And maybe we can have a community outreach meeting. Maybe there's something more.
Well, and
But
again-
Councilwoman, I hope I was not trying, I'm just saying I didn't want to not have that in-depth conversation, and it's kind of more than I think than we have time
No,
for.
you're right. It's kind of not in line with the budget. I just I don't see Mark that often, so I was just laying all my burdens on you. We hope to see you soon in one of our council meetings. Mark, thank you for coming.
So thanks. And if I could just summarize that, because it's really, really important. I'm be ecstatic to collaborate with you on this. I value the public's input very, very much. And again, they see themselves in the picture. But so whether it's Third Avenue Park, Ocala, whatever it is, if you find out from your constituents what they're looking for, we can come up with a plan which incorporates as much of that into the design. And then we can go back to your constituents and say, this is what we came up with based upon this input. There were other suggestions. We can give them a reason why we did things, and we can also give them a reason why we weren't able to do certain things, and create a very, very clear picture for them as to what we did. And at the end of it all, they will feel considered, they will see themselves as a part of the bigger picture, and they will be more likely to utilize the facilities that we put together for them.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Does anyone, oh no, thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Thank you. Are there any other additional questions? We're running a bit over, and we still have Corp Counsel. Anything else that we might want to make mention to Mark quickly before we let him go for the evening? All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. We really do look forward to the spring and the summer and what you and Public Works have for us. But we would definitely follow up with you about having maybe a working meeting on some of the needs of the community. Thank you
Yeah,
so
no,
much.
that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. You have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hi, Lee. Are you still with us?
Of course, Madam Chair.
Well, we appreciate you, Lee. Thank you so much. Did you want to quickly and concisely go over your budget for us?
Sure. Well, first, let me just mention one quick thing. And I'm only doing this because we're pivoting off of what you heard on Park and Rec. In addition to what Mark said, we're going to be hiring a new director of elder services. And it is the mission and the idea of Madam Sabo, Commissioner Sabo, to expand elder services to reach down to young people like me, those 55 and over, and to have more programming for active seniors, and coordinating with the Parks and Recreation to make sure that we fully utilize every resource we have so that we can expand programming to that group. So I just figured it was an opportunity. We don't see each other face to face, so I can't have chats with people as much. I figured you guys would want to know that. Now, in terms of the Corporation Council budget, I don't think you see a lot of changes from prior years. I think we do a lot with what we're provided. We're going to continue to try to provide as much as we can with expanding all the resources that are available to us. I still utilize the resources of interns from the law school. I have another intern joining me May 15th, and then I'll probably try to get a contingent for the summer. COVID's made it a little difficult for that, but we still have good relationships with the area law schools. But other than that, we will be losing my deputy corp counsel. I have already found a qualified replacement that the mayor has agreed to appoint. So we will have a seamless transition there, and we shouldn't lose much. Other than that, I don't know about any other major changes that are going to happen, so I'll be available for questions.
Okay, well, that was just, so can you explain that? You have one deputy corp counsel that's leaving or is already gone.
No, the deputy corp counsel got an opportunity with the state. This is what happens when I can't compete with what the state is offering, including his ability if he stays long enough to get a pension. So,
I understand that.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's okay. I mean, I'm replacing him with an experienced lawyer. We're happy to have the prior deputy corp counsel, since he had experience as a corp counsel in a large municipality in Connecticut. The corp counsel coming in, I've worked with on other projects. He has a wide array of experience, slightly different than the corp counsel. I've already brought him in as an hourly attorney, so he'll seamlessly go into that other position. And what I'm going to try to focus him in on are some of these land transactions that are going to come up. So one of the things he's going to do is train my paralegal to do a proper title search so that we can do quicker title searches in-house if we need to. It's still more cost-effective to do title searches with title search professionals, but during COVID, we found the title search professionals were having a slower turnaround time on title searches. So this gentleman will train him and any other of my students that come in and do his own title searches as well. So that'll be positive. He's already involved in transactions involving the new enterprise zone. He's met with the chief of staff. He's met with the grants coordinator. He's met with people in planning and development. And he's already got files relative to that. The other aspect that he's able, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I just want to understand, The old corp counsel is gone. Or is he still with us too? Because I don't understand.
He's still with us until May 8th.
Okay, so when we bring in the new guy, the new gentleman, once the older gentleman goes to his new job at the state, the new gentleman, are we putting him in at the 55,000 that the mayor offered, or is he gonna start off at the 50? I'm just curious, did like all of this happen after the budget was determined? So what is he expecting to get?
He would be expecting to get the mayor's recommended budget.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't know when the moves were occurring. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
It's worth noting, he doesn't need benefits, so that expense will not be included.
So now, see, that's really interesting when you, Chairman, can I just follow up? I'm sorry, because I know I was about to call you. So that's really interesting because I hear that a lot, right? I hear, oh, well, if we give them benefits, they only want the single. Well, are they, so is he signing off that for the next year, there's no way that he can get it? Like, what's the guarantee that they won't come in and decide to have it later? Because I get that we say this, or somebody who says that, oh, well, if we give them benefits, they only want the single benefit. Well, what if they want the family 3 months into that? Are we saying no?
Yeah, I've been lucky that people in my staff generally haven't needed benefits because they have spouses who provide them with benefits, and usually benefits either through state employment or through other employment by the major companies. So
But
I've
that's
been
not
lucky.
my
So I'm
question.
confident, at least in the next budget cycle, you're not going to have any increased benefit, people receiving benefits in the Corporation Counsel Department.
No, I appreciate that, Lee, but I'm asking you about in the entire city hall. I am asking you that you're saying this to me. I'm saying that if, for example, Mayor Rossi, we're going to use your office. If Mayor Rossi comes before us and she says, I want to hire somebody to put stamps on my letters, and we're going to pay this person this amount of money, and oh, they're only going to take the single medical coverage in a way to encourage us to give her this position. Is that a guarantee, or can that person say, oh, I've decided I don't want just the single coverage. I want the family coverage now that is $26,000 a year? Or do they sign something that obligates them just to the $10,000 one?
Well, I suppose for a non-union person, we might be able to negotiate what you described, but that has never crossed my desk. So that being said, that I can't cite an example for that, it would be governed by the council approval
Past
of
practice?
non-bargaining benefit package, which wouldn't forbade anyone from, just like you said, I mean, if I'm not taking benefits today, yeah, I could pivot. But I guess the bottom line is this. We shouldn't hire people with the idea that we're saving money because they're not taking benefits. However, we should acknowledge when the city is receiving the benefit of not spending that money in a hire. So, I mean, it's a win, but no, it shouldn't impact how you make decisions because yes, they could pivot within 30 days and be in a different situation.
So I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention that when we've spoken about this and people say, oh, well, they're not going to take the medical or they're going to just take the single. There is no guarantee that in 2 months they're going to change their mind and go full family and cost us $26,000. That is, I just wanted to, I knew that not to be the case, that we can't guarantee that. They can say it all they want, but they can absolutely, in a week's time, change their mind after we've already approved it and we thought what the budget was. So that was my only interest in asking you, not anything in particular about your department or the people that you employ, just that the idea that there's no way to guarantee the medical, that's all. Anyone have any additional questions for Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lee. I want to, first of all, I appreciate what your department does, and I was happy to see that there was really only modest increase in your budget. And just to remind everybody, it was really just last year that we did increase from the year prior your legal services budget to about $47,000 from the year prior, and also that we added the Corp Council for the $50,000 plus benefits. So I'm glad to see that that both of these areas have been utilized. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Councilman Cohen. Chairman Quagliani.
Hey, Lee, just so you could clarify for me, because obviously I need clarification. So the organizational structure in your department is you as the Corp Counsel. We already talked about the Deputy Corp Counsel, which is part-time or per diem or per engagement, or how would we quantify that?
Quantify which?
Well, so the Deputy Corp Counsel, I'm looking at the salary, which is less than the secretary. So I'm asking how many, it's a part-time position?
I would say it's more than 19 hours a week, but no, it's not 35.
Okay.
And I couldn't get anybody. I mean, I guess I could get an entry-level person at that. That's about it.
Yeah.
If we wanted 35.
Right. No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand the structure. And then you have the risk manager that's in your underneath your purview as well. That position is filled, right?
Yes, that position is filled, and I agreed to supervise that position.
And then there's two in here in the budget book, assistant corp counsels. I don't know if the description is correct. One says back tax, one says tax, but these are two other, I don't know what to use, part-time that are brought in for special projects or what?
Well, your charter requires someone be designated as the tax appeal person. At their currently positioned, they are 19 hours or less positions, no benefits. One person in the past, Tim Gunning has been the one who's done the tax appeals, but because we had a reval, I'm anticipating potentially more, maybe not, but so I brought in somebody with experience in tax appeals. But I have utilized that. I've taken the advantage of also utilizing that person to assist me with planning and development, because it is hard to do 2 or 3 meetings a week and still work during the day as well. And that's worked out well. So, and then she gets more familiarity with things that are going on with planning and development. And she also helps with some of the appeals. So that's worked out very well. So I'm pretty happy with the group I have, all very experienced attorneys, more than 20 years apiece, each of them. So it's very helpful to the city.
Okay, thank you. I'm pleased or flattered that you've decided to be our attorney. You didn't ship us off to anybody else.
Well, I'm pleased that worked out for you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you. Any other questions? So Lee, we spoke in great length a few times about your budget and your personnel. And I'm pretty positive I spoke to Mayor Rossi in regards to a little bit of that conversation. you had asked for a substantial, not substantial, but you asked for your deputy corp counsel to be paid out at $65,000. And Mayor Rossi in her budget and doing her due diligence gave you an additional $5,000 for that deputy corp counsel. And in our discussion, you advised that you were fine with that worked. We spoke about the assistant corp counsels in length and how you asked for them to get a raise, but the mayor, being consistent across the board in her budget, did not award anybody part-time people like any money, like any raises. But we spoke and you thought that I thought that, you know, it might be a good idea to give them a raise, especially if we are looking at the budget as a whole and the council's going to be considering some other part-time people getting their raises. Do you remember that conversation, Lee?
Yes. I mean, I'm
Okay.
not going to go back from what I requested. That was my request. So I'm not going to pretend like I didn't make that request.
No. So you and I spoke and I said, well, if you were going to give them a raise, you suggested, and I'm just sharing the conversation with the council as a whole, that you suggested, or we spoke about taking some monies from legal services 52430. You were, the mayor's recommendation and your ask was $200,000, but you believed that if we needed to find monies to provide them with a raise, that we could remove money from that line item because some of the work you would not have to go outside of City Hall. You could have those lawyers do that work for you, essentially. Is that still your opinion?
Well, yeah, but I mean, look, I'll concede. Obviously, I want those folks to get a raise. So I would, whatever, if there's a path that they could get a raise, but I have to take a hit in another area, then the path that I would want to take would be to get them a little more money every day of the week.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to just have this conversation with you and share it with the city council. I know that, you know, it was I quickly spoke with the mayor about it, you know, as well, and shared that with her. So I just wanted to bring that forth to the council. Is there anything else about that you wanted to talk about, or that's all you got to say on that? You want to do a Peter Massaro?
Well, look, the individuals in question are going to work whether you know, it's not about them. They're going to work whether you give them a raise or not. That's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the deputy corp counsel raise because I knew my deputy corp counsel was looking for another job. And, you know, but in retrospect, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. 65 wouldn't have kept him. So
Okay.
55 is fine for that. And, you know, so it is true. The associate attorneys, they haven't asked for a raise. They took the jobs with it. Nobody put a gun to their head. But obviously, I'm always going to advocate for my people. And if they got more money and I had a less in the outside counsel item, then that's life. We'd make it work.
Okay. Just quickly, there's just one thing. It's not a lot of money, but I am just curious as to what it is. And if you have told me before, I apologize. I didn't write it in my handy dandy notebook. Computer software. Why do you have that for 2,500 in your budget? Why doesn't that come under IT and Jermaine? Like, what's the difference?
It ends up coming out of IT and Jermaine. What he does is we can make upgrades. Let me give you an example. So when I first came in that first summer, I had 6 student attorneys. I had no computer for them that worked for them to use. You know, it's one thing they're giving free time. I got no space for them, really. They're sharing a circular table, most of them. And then they can't even get on a computer. So we've increased the capacity there that allows me, for example, to buy laptops maybe. If you buy a laptop, you got to have computer software for the laptop. If you, my computer is very old. For example, right now, I can't use the GIS. I don't have the capacity to, I was being able, but now it can't use it. So Jermaine has to upgrade. I think I have some software that's 10 years old. Jermaine has to upgrade the software for me to have enough capacity, candidly, just to do my job.
Okay.
What he tries to do, and what he's going to continue to try to do, is to budget that within departments to the extent it can be budgeted within departments, which kind of makes sense. If you just have a giant computer budget or software budget or however you want to do that, what gets lost in the mix is how each department is affecting that particular budgeting. And what you really want to see is each department budget and how different things impact it. Because you could, take the health department right now during COVID. They needed increased computer capacity. They needed laptops. But as COVID subsides, they might not, that might not be the main element that they need. Or maybe, we increase their capacity and that's great. The other thing you could see if that happens is if people aren't using particular software, or if people aren't using particular equipment, or if the needs of the department change. I think that the secretary I have currently probably got her job through a typing test. Now, I don't even know if we have a working typewriter anymore. So as needs change, they change. They don't always, some needs change, obviously, citywide, but some needs change pursuant to the needs of a department. So I think he's wise. I mean, look, if there was, let's say there was $100,000 for software for the whole city, what you're really just doing is parsing that out for the needs of each department. So I think that makes sense. We've done that, by the way.
It absolutely does.
Yeah, we try to do that when we do printers and scanners and so on and so forth. So I think it makes sense. And then the department has to be responsible. The other thing is, like in a legal place, I have Dragon software, which is software where I can dictate and get about 92% accurate account of whatever I dictate in terms of a letter or something. And then I can go in and play around with it. Now, that's helpful to me. Maybe that's not helpful to, you just heard Mark Payne. Maybe that Mark Payne wouldn't use that. So again, there are different department needs on technology. I think it makes sense to have individual items in each budget and reflect those needs.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions for Lee? Mayor Rossi?
I don't have a question. I just want to be clear what was just said, because you're absolutely right. We did have conversations and everything about the raise. So obviously, for the last 4 years, no one's gotten a raise at City Hall. FY22 is the first time. So all I want to do is make sure that we're consistent, because as I said, the way it normally works is whatever the union does, I don't know who's aware of this, but I know some of the more senior council members are. There's a resolution that states that the non-union people follow, the certain unions or whatever to get the same thing. So again, the part-time people are not included in that resolution. So this would probably be the first time ever. I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same 1% though for everyone, so that it's fair across the board. Because to me, that's the fairest way. In other words, they shouldn't get more. And if you decided to give people with 19 hours a raise, and again, when you look at it, you have to look at what Mark Payne was saying too, with minimum wage as well, because that's going to go up every year until it gets to the $15. So that's in a law all of its own. So it doesn't have anything to do with the resolution. But the other groups that we're talking about, whether it be the registrar's office, Lee Tiernan's office, and I don't think there's any other offices, as long as it follows the 1%. That's all I just want to make sure that it's consistent, if that's what the council decides to do.
Thank you for giving us that feedback. It's appreciated. Any other questions? Councilman Donovan?
Lee, how you doing again? People you have in your office, do you need more help? Or what you have, the amount of people you have now, does that suffice?
Well, obviously, Corporation Council office has continued along. We've continued to get work done. If we had more help, there might be some different work that gets done. Work might get done faster. You have a budget that continues to challenge me and my office, and we'll continue to work with it. But if you have more revenue, you get more done. What I would do with this budget is, with the mayor's recommended budget, is I will try to find revenue sources to expand what we do. I'll find other revenue sources to expand what we do. That'll be my challenge. And then when I find them, I will ask that the revenue coming in, some of it can be used to support legal services. And that'll probably work out. But look, many departments in the city can use more staff. Think about how much recreation services we need and could use. Beth Sabo, she has two hats. She's the human resource person. She's also the personnel person. Rob Sandella has been I'm breaking my own rule. I'm sorry, using names. We have an individual who works in the building department who's also still doing duties in purchasing. The list goes on. There's a lot of people really busting their humps and trying to do more with less. So, I will live with the budget you have and continue to try to, with that budget, perform better, do work faster, do more work. But it'll challenge me to try to find more financial resources and then make an argument that I should be able to use those resources to get more services.
I appreciate it. That's all I asked. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, Lee, you're the end of the road in regards to having departments come before us. And I think one of the biggest things that I just want to make mention of that was evident through this entire process is that there's been just so much collaboration and people just sharing and, crossing departments to help each other and to just, get the job done. And probably one of the most difficult years that I can ever recall. And I just think that that's just a testament to, some of the individuals that we have in the city, and it's appreciated. Like, you are appreciated, Lee. I don't know if you hear it enough, but I just want to take a moment and tell you that. And, I don't see the employees inside your office hardly ever, but they are appreciated as well. And with that said, it is 8:24 and we are recessing until Tuesday at 6. Yes, Tuesday at 6. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Mayor Rossi, thank you. And Lee, thanks again.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.